Space offers a great vantage point from which we can monitor and measure the extent of climate change. It's my job as an Earth observation scientist to build and develop new types of instruments to be used in space that will give us a view of Earth that just isn't possible from here on the ground. But they are vital in providing the science overview from what has happened, what is happening, and what is yet to come.
Tackling the climate crisis requires the radical transformation of our food system, which currently accounts for about a third of global greenhouse gas emissions. So we work with researchers working in different parts of the food system and different disciplines to ensure that their research is joined up, which prevents changes proposed in one part of the food system from inadvertently causing problems in another part of the food system.
Transport contributes 27% of this nation's greenhouse gas emissions. It's the largest sector, the largest contributor. And of that, a significant fraction is derived from just normal car ownership. And so tackling emissions from the transport sector, not just shipping, not just aircraft, is absolutely essential towards us meeting our net zero objectives. I would like to see both national and global action and commitment that is proportionate to the scale of the problem that the planet faces, so that the actions that are put in place reflect the urgency of the situation that we face today.
It is estimated that respiratory infections associated with household air pollution is responsible for over 900,000 deaths among children every year. In rural settlements in Africa, the use of firewood and other biomass for cooking is very common. No one is safe from the health impacts of climate change, but the health impacts of using biomass fuel for cooking disproportionately affects households in rural communities in Africa.
Climate change and increasing risks from pests and diseases threaten our woodlands like never before. I study how climate change affects plants and their pests and diseases. I also search for ways to make our woodlands more resilient. With many millions of trees being planted now globally, we need to make sure they will be safe for many years. We therefore need to understand how to make our woodlands adapt to the risks, not only now, but in the future.
Estimates are that by 2050, we'll be using 20% of our fossil resources, that's oil and gas, towards making new plastic. And that cannot happen. We cannot allow this to happen because we can actually recycle the plastic that's already up on the surface here. We just need to find better solutions. So we now have enzymes that we've taken from nature and we've developed to basically break down PET plastic in the laboratory. And it was at months and then weeks and now days, and now we're starting to go to the sort of period of hours.
The problem that I look at is how we can make the rapid transition towards a low carbon society as quickly as possible to avoid some of the most significant consequences of climate change.
My work focuses on net zero energy transitions. So I look at how people interact with energy systems, and I try to bring together insights from a range of different perspectives to create a richer narrative around what's happening in this space, and to use this to think about how the UK and other nations can get to net zero emissions whilst creating a better, fairer future for everyone.
Now, this is a fact that the textile and fashion industry do create pollution at different stages.
Is the second biggest polluter globally after oil, contributes more to CO2 emissions than aviation and shipping put together.
So what we are doing in UK and in our group is we are trying to identify where we can intervene with the maximum impact.
This project has the potential to transform the online shopping, and it also helps the environment by cutting on the fabric swatches, since people can virtually feel the fabrics. The need for sending over the garments and or fabric samples will be reduced.
Our goals and ambitions are around transitioning the fashion industry to a more sustainable place,
so that we can decrease the footprint of fashion and textiles.
The climate is changing across the world, and some changes may make it difficult for animals to thrive. This is especially problematic in tropical countries such as Ethiopia, where livestock is a large component of the economy. My research group have been applying technologies that enable us to look at the DNA of farmed animals to understand how genetic factors help sheep to thrive in different climates, and therefore mitigate the challenges of changing climates in tropical regions.
Reducing infectious disease in farm animals is a fundamental component to solving the climate crisis. My research group investigates how the genetics of farm animals affects infectious disease spread. And this knowledge helps farmers and breeders to identify animals that are at a higher risk of becoming infected or transmitting the disease. And ultimately, they can use this knowledge to prevent disease outbreaks and to maintain a high health in their animal herd.
My area of research really aims to reduce the amount of reactive nitrogen that is lost through agricultural land applications. So gas of interest for us is nitrous oxide, which is a powerful greenhouse gas, 300 times more powerful than carbon dioxide in its global warming potential. I'm really looking at technologies which might stabilize nitrogen in the soil and make it available for the plants for longer periods of time before it is lost to the environment.
I've done lots of work on the impact, particularly of modern agriculture, intensive farming on European cultural landscapes and habitats, and I've also been involved in various campaigns to green the common agricultural policy of the European Union.
One of the things that we're seeing in farming communities is that women may not always be recognized as formally part of the agricultural labor force. That can mean that they don't get access to some of the scientific solutions that are developed for the farmers in those communities, and only the men farmers are trained in those issues. Now, recognizing that can allow for example, empowering more people within the community, farmers of all ilks, including smallholder farmers, including women farmers, to take up these new solutions to adapting and trying to mitigate the effects of climate change.
We aim to engage young people, particularly in urban areas, in recognising, valuing and promoting UK treescapes. We need to engage the citizens of tomorrow in understanding how these treescapes work and why they matter. We aim to offer children and young people hope and empowerment in envisaging their future relationship with treescapes and how this contributes to UK and global climate mitigation ambitions.
Our project will evaluate how young people relate to and engage with the trees that surround them, especially those children living within commonly marginalised backgrounds whose voices are rarely heard.
Reimagining Museums for Climate Action began as a design competition which asked designers, architects, Indigenous groups and communities around the world about how they think museums might be reimagined to become catalysts for radical forms of climate action, and aims to help museums to radically reimagine their work for the future.
I think the main goal of science and the research in general is to contribute to making the world better and improving the climate and improving the agriculture and the way of how people think about using the natural materials existent in this world.
The climate crisis is going to need every single solution on the planet in order to avert disaster. I do think people are sick of hearing about disaster though, and that's the reason why we use games to try and educate people about the climate crisis, helping them to see their own carbon footprints and have that eureka moment where they understand that everything has an impact and that they have a part to play in making a difference.
Really need to work with researchers to make sure that we're decarbonising all of the systems that we use, that we're capturing emissions that we can't remove from all of our different industrial processes and systems, and also that we're actually starting to use a lot less greenhouse gas emitting systems and products as well.
When we all are young, we have this desire to change the world or to do something good for the world. And obviously with the climate crisis, this is something that it needs the effort of everyone. And to be able to contribute at least a tiny bit to that fight towards, combating or fighting climate change, it's really motivating.
I must say, it really is a great feeling to know that maybe one day our data could help solve some of the really important environmental issues.